everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm here for my September wrap-up, which is not as long as I was expecting it to be. I was expecting to have a lot more books to include in this, but for some reason life got in the way this month and I only have 5 books to show you. So my original plan, probably like most people's plans for the beginning of September, was to read this book and to read this book in preparation for Tower of Dawn coming out in the beginning of September. You know what books I actually end up reading? This one and this one. I don't know what happened. I just can't get enough of Prythian. I love both of her series. I just love this one more. And I just really wanted to get back into hot fae men. That's all I really wanted in my life. It originally just started as I was kind of in a reading slump, and Akamath will always pull me out of that. And you can't really just read Akamath without reading Akawar now, so I did that. Both of these are still 5-star reads for me. I just adore this book so much. I've talked about this book endlessly, so I'm not gonna get into this, but I just love it so much. And this book is still good. This is the second time reading it. The first time being like the day that it came out, and I was terrified because we pretty much knew that this series was going to continue on beyond this trilogy, but it was going to be not following these characters, and she phrased it with the rest of the books are going to be about the people who survive. So I pretty much flew through this the first time that I read it, just terrified. Like, I wanted to take it slow because I wanted to make it last, but I also wanted to know which of my babies wasn't gonna make it. Now that I'm kind of like relaxed because I know the outcome of the story, my second time was way more enjoyable because I could like have a little bit more chill knowing who is going to like survive. Like, I knew the end game basically. But this actually gave me a lot more insight into it. I still think that I like Akamath a little bit more just because the entire appeal of the series is the sexual tension between Rhys and Feyre. And we kind of have gotten past that. It still exists, but it's not as like tensiony anymore, but it's less focused on their relationship and more focused on obviously the war and the world. So it gets kind of more vast and less sexual tension-y basically in this one. So I learned to appreciate this one a lot more the second time around because I was less panicked reading it. Okay, moving on. You would think that after getting my Prythian fix, I would go back and do what I originally planned and read the Throne of Glass series in preparation for Tower of Dawn, because at that point I had Tower of Dawn and I needed to read it. No, I didn't. I just needed to take a break, and I ended up reading The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee, which this is like the Owlcrate exclusive version, so it's blue and orange instead of green. This was adorable. This was so stinking cute. It's such a great concept, just seeing bisexuality in historical fiction. And I loved it. This pretty much read exactly like a YA contemporary, just in a historical setting, basically. It didn't actually have much of like the historical vibes to it like most historical fiction does, where you kind of learn a lot about like the culture and the world and the time and place that it is set in. This literally is just following teenagers who happen to not be in present day. And I really liked it. It read really easily, it was hilarious, it was emotional, it was adorable, and I just liked seeing just kind of queer characters in historical fiction to see how things were handled back then. Not that it was entirely realistic, but it was just a really fun ride. I really enjoyed this. And I gave this 3 stars, so I will definitely be picking up more by her when she writes more. Next book that I got to is We're Okay by Nina LaCour. Now, I have never read Nina LaCour's writing before, but I know that she has a following and I know that her writing is supposed to be beautiful. I get it now. It is so good. Like, she is just so lyrical with her writing. This book pretty much will like rip your heart out in about 150 pages and kind of start to piece you back together again just because of her writing. This follows a girl who is pretty much in a really deep depression after there's a significant death in her life, and she pretty much just runs away from the scene and goes to college. And I'm not going to say she's trying to cope very well because she's clearly not coping very well, but it's a very real and raw look at what depression can look like, in that nothing really happens, and she's acknowledging the fact that she's not bettering herself and she's not progressing, but sometimes that's how it is. So this handles that in such a way that you are so wrapped up in her life and in her past, basically learning her relationship building and the people who are important to her, that pretty much by the time you reach the end of this, you feel that you fully know the entire cast of characters really well, like they're part of your own family, but you are also just like emotionally drained. It was just such an enjoyable book. Kind of. I'm gonna say that loosely because it was pretty heart-wrenching, but it was just so enjoyable to see the writing so eloquently describe depression. It was so good. So I'm definitely going to be picking up pretty much everything by her now because she is an amazing writer. So I gave this 5 stars and my feels need some recovery time. And the last book that I got to in the month of September was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I didn't know that I needed this book in my life, but I do. I fell so in love with this book and I had no idea that I was going to. It was just so lovable. I don't know how to describe this book other than I just loved it. I fell in love with the characters. I adored it so much. Okay, this is a sci-fi that is somewhat reminiscent of Firefly. That's what I kept thinking about it, just because you love the cast of characters so much and it's a very character-driven sci-fi versus plot-driven. So you pretty much just get to meet the characters and see their interactions and the relationships building with the background knowing that there are things happening and like there's actually plot moving forward, but you're just so focused on the characters that that's what's moving the story forward. I just loved it. I literally loved every single character in this. I adored all of the relationships. I loved learning about all of the different alien species and how the politics work in this future. It was just so great. So this is pretty much a crew of a whole menagerie of characters who are on this ship, and they all have different roles on it, but basically their job is to punch holes through space, kind of, in order to link different portions together. They discovered the science behind punching holes between space and time, basically, to be able to go from one to the next. So this is their job, and they take a lot of jobs from a lot of different people, and the main plot of this is that they got a really big job from the government. But beyond that, you just love the characters so much. That's all it's about. It's just so good. So I'm going to definitely be picking up the second one. I believe the third one comes out next year, I want to say. It is just so good. I gave this 5 stars. Just read this, guys. It's so great. If you love Firefly at all, definitely pick it up because it is definitely the same warm and fuzzy feelings that you get thinking about the cast of that show with these characters. It's so good. I loved it. So that is it for the month of September. It was a fairly brief month. I think October is going to be a more intense month because I do have the readathon at the end of this month and I do actually have a lot of books that I am very excited to get through. It's not like a slumpy period for me, so I'm actually like actively reading again. So October should be slightly better because I am very far behind on my Goodreads challenge, like embarrassingly so. So we're gonna get caught up in October. So that's gonna be it. What did you guys read in the month of September? Was there anything like amazing for you? Also, I know I'm gonna read Tower of Dawn. It'll be in my next wrap up. I promise. I will. So that's it. I hope you guys are reading some amazing books and I'll see you in my next video.